And 365 days after that, a year after the EndSars bloody protests around the country, I still have Babajide Kolade, Otitoju, and Tunde Abaton in the studio. Jide, we're looking at the gains from this EndSars protest.
Well, I think that one of the gains is the investigative panels that the president told the governors to set up, so that people who are victims of police brutality can get compensation and all that. They can tell their stories. That's one of the gains. The other gain is the fact that that terrible police unit, the people demanded that it should be scrapped, and it's been scrapped. It is a fact that within the police we still have bad eggs who are behaving more or less like the same SARS people.
Not different
but it is work in progress. We just hope that we can progressively improve the attitude of our policemen. It's not something that can happen in one day.
Well, I think we have to, it's unfortunate that we are mentioning the fact that when the president got elected, one of the promises he made was that there would be a fundamental reform of the police system in Nigeria. Because this thing is systemic. If it is not systemic, it will not get to a stage whereby an ideological protest that was staged against a system now became the very thing that is destroying that particular system. Now, a year after, one would have expected that the government will have come out with more far-reaching things, because we have to reform the minds of the system. It's not a question of allocating money to the police, or a question of building structure.
Start from training.
But you have to train. You have to train them with the kind of society we have.
Some of what we saw yesterday.
We'll still get there.
Yeah.
No, apart from the call for the scrap of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, by the EndSars protesters as a result of the wanton brutality, one key demand of the youths is police reform 1 year down the line. How far has the country gone with this task? Jide?
Well, when the whole EndSars thing began, the president yielded to the demand of the youths, and he set up a committee saddled with the task of setting up parameters for the reform of the police. Our friend Chukwuma, Innocent Chukwuma, the late Innocent Chukwuma, was one of the members of that group, that committee, and we were happy, you know. But when this whole thing happened, and people were and places were being destroyed and all that, I said it that people, what they wanted in the end will not be achieved.
Okay, so before we go to this one now, let me take you back to yesterday. What happened yesterday? Still talking about police reform. And yesterday we saw that in spite of all the noise about EndSars, and in spite of what the police promised, we thought we were going to see a level of civility and a cordial relationship between the police and even the protesters. But yesterday, the visuals we've been seeing, the videos we've been seeing, has not been encouraging at all. It's as if...
clearly the police, again, demonstrated a high level of irresponsibility yesterday. Those things, journalists are at a scene, they are not harmed
at all.
They had their drones, they were taking shots, and then you are grabbing people, grabbing their drones and all that. What's going on? You are still spraying pepper spray on people's faces. That means that there are still elements within the police, because you see where the EndSars people lost it. And I'm sure those young people, if they can think, they will see that they had the good struggle, that by their hands they destroyed it. EndSars activists would have been part of the screening, the profiling of the bad eggs within the police, because that was a demand that they made, that those bad eggs should be fished out, and they wanted to play a role in ensuring that that happened. But the moment this whole thing was hijacked, because they will not leave the streets at the time when they were making life unbearable for people by occupying the streets, then government stopped having anything to do with even the demands that were made. They made a demand in respect of even the salaries of the police. What do we have now? Remember that Tinubu warned them that, look, the government has listened to you. Leave the roads and continue the engagement. The engagement, if they had continued, it would have led us to achieve even this reform. Their own members and friends were in those reforms. They were in that committee. That committee will have continued this work. They too will have been able to monitor the work of the committee. But everything was lost to the fact that So this is the thing. Yesterday we saw the police behave true to type. Every opportunity to humiliate unarmed civilians, the Nigerian police always gets excited about it. This is the same police that the number one training facility for the mobile police. Boko Haram not only overran the place in Goza, Boko Haram took about 14 policemen as hostage, and we can't remember even what happened to them. So instead of flexing muscles against people who are not armed, the police must remember that it is responsible to the civil populace. That's the way they should first think. You must not first think that, oh, I'm superior to this person because I'm wearing a uniform. No. The moment you are consumed by that notion, you will never behave responsibly when you see civilians. You will think that civilians, they are bloody civilians, let us crush them. That's what we saw again yesterday. How can you, John? Why are you knew that journalists must cover, even policemen too will be waiting to, those of them who are not on the field, they'll be waiting to read reports about what happened in Lekki. Were they expecting that nobody will go and cover the thing? Why are you harassing people?
Well, yesterday, were you impressed with their conduct?
Well, I think, you see, they have a deflated ego, the Nigerian police force. Like I said, until we reform the system, because in those days, before you can join the police force, they must know your background, the family you are coming from. But it will appear as if to every fresh intake into the Nigerian police force, they have a misperception that they are not to serve the people. It's supposed to be Nigeria Police Service, not a Nigeria Police Force that is supposed to coerce people. Yesterday, one young man, Uber driver, he drove somebody to Lekki toll gate, and they seized his telephone, did every other thing to him, because the man was trying to earn a living. So unfortunately, like I said, until there is a systemic reform and seriously by the government, yes, we may say that the EndSars protesters lost the team of that particular essay, but a year after, it is enough for the government, if the government is serious, to take a second look at the Nigerian police system. It is the system that is wrong. Until you take a look at that system and do the normal reform in that, we will continue to have policemen like this. You know, between 1979 and 83, why the military struck against the police was that they believed that the police led by Adewusi was becoming too powerful. Yes, it was even still responsible then, but the police of today cannot be described as being responsible in the way they are handling citizens, because the police cannot be there if the citizens are not paying their tax. You cannot earn your salary. But they have reduced Nigerians to the perpetual slaves. And they want an African Nigerian to see a police officer and begin to run.
And they say the police is your friend.
And they say the police is your friend.
Somebody who is brutalizing you, how can you be happy to have him as your friend?
They have to change their own perception. And the ego, the deflated ego that they have. They have an ego.
Some people are even clamoring that they change that name, Nigerian Police Force.
It's not a force. It should not be a force. It's a service. There was a time 5 years ago they changed it.
Custom.
But the custom is a service, not a force.
Human rights lawyer Inibe Effiong joins us via Zoom for more discussion on this naughty issue. Inibe,
thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure as always.
Happy EndSars anniversary.
I shouldn't ask you where you were yesterday.
Oh yes, we were very busy with the engagement, trying to have conversations around the anniversary.
Okay, now straight to the matter now. How necessary is police reform at this time, Inibe?
Well, I've listened carefully to the discussion so far, I appreciate the sentiment that has been expressed, especially by Mr. Babajide. But you know, I will only say that I can only speak in the language of my generation. There is a reason why this protest took place in the first place. And I think that is the starting point. Because except we are honest as a country about the fact that EndSars was a product of failure of governance, failure of leadership, it will be very difficult to underscore the anger of young people against the police or the SARS during the EndSars agitation. We had a history where young persons were being profiled, people were being slaughtered, people were being killed. It is still happening to date. A situation where the Special Anti-Robbery Squad had basically, it became a special, murder squad.
Execution squad.
A special execution squad. A special robbery. Instead of anti-robbery, it became a special robbery squad, where SARS went about in a larger-than-life attitude. In fact, you will confirm that when SARS was in existence, if you want to intimidate your neighbor, your friend, your colleague, or someone who is owing you, all you needed to say was that I'm going to invite SARS. So there was this climate of fear and impunity that pervaded that agency. But let's not be mistaken, as I've said. SARS was a reflection of the general decay in the police, and of course the general decay in the country. That was why I'm going to your question, why people felt the need for the police to be reformed. I do concede that the EndSars movement and protest, just like any other protest, was not a perfect one. A few mistakes were made. I do also condemn, and I've always taken a position that the violence that took place was not necessary, especially the attack on media organizations and businesses. That was totally unacceptable. But we must also go further to ask the question, who was responsible for this attack? I took part in the EndSars protest. I marched on the street of Lagos. Nobody can say Inibere is a hoodlum, or that I destroyed somebody's property, or that I kill anybody. The same applies to millions and thousands of Nigerians who went out peacefully to demand a reform to the police. But the question is, what was the response? We saw how the protest was going. At a point, the government became very impatient, very intolerant with that movement. They felt that it was assuming a political dimension, or as some people falsely insinuated that it was an attempt to overthrow President Buhari, which was not the truth. That was why the military was deployed to the toll gate. And you will agree with me, Ayo, that at least for Lagos, the carnage, the violence, the anarchy that we all saw started gaining momentum after the tragic event of October 20th, 2020, when the military opened fire on innocent protesters at the toll gate. Before that time, you can prove me wrong, I am not aware of any police station that was bombed in Lagos State. In fact, at the panel of inquiry, I was present. General Taiwo, who testified on behalf of the military, considered that all the evidence of destruction they brought took place after the attack at the toll gate. Was that a justification? Yeah, the answer is no. But what has been done?
Let me just ask you here.
Let's go to the reform, the issue of reform.
Yes,
on
the reform now.
What kind of changes do you want to see? You and your clients, you have to deal with the police all the time. Given the character of the police that you are familiar with, what kind of reforms do you want to see?
The first thing that we want to see is the culture of accountability. As I speak to you right now, despite the promises of the federal government, of the National Economic Council, there is still this pervasive impunity in the police. People are still being slaughtered and people are still being killed. And I can cite to you a very recent one, a case in Akwa Ibom, a fresh graduate of architecture, Kubiataisi, who was tortured and killed in custody 2 months ago. He was taken in the night for committing no offense, very healthy, murder. His brain was brutalized. He died in custody till date. That police officer has not been dismissed. he has not been prosecuted. In Lagos here, we have also seen how a young lady was shot and killed during protests. Other people are still being killed across the country. The extortion has not stopped. So let us start with accountability. Now go to even police welfare. The president promised that he had ordered increments in their salary. I don't know whether that has taken effect. But how many police formations, how many police quarters have been renovated? Because this also goes to their modus operandi. These people are raised in an environment that is not fit for human habitation. Go to police cells, Mr. Babajide Ayo. Go to police cells. Go and see the condition under which people are being detained, including in Lagos State, the cosmopolitan city of Lagos. Nothing to write home about. People are still being extorted as I speak to you. Even as at today, as at yesterday, I am still receiving reports of people being extorted for bail across the country. So this impunity has not stopped. So when we see Nigerians being so disgruntled, it is because we have not seen any honest effort to reform.
So moving forward now, anyway, I would like to ask you what steps can be taken to ensure that we eradicate cases of police brutality and killings?
The first step is for the president, because I don't believe the police can reform itself. It has to take the leadership of the president. The National Assembly has done a lot, I must concede, with the passage of the Police Act of 2020, with the passage of the Anti-Torture Act of 2017, with the passage of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and so on and so forth. These laws have been put in place to ensure that suspects' rights are respected. In Lagos, for example, the House of Assembly also passed a law recently, the new SCJL, stopping parade of suspects. Ayo, has it stopped? It has not. Let the president of the country decide today that this impunity has to stop. Let a policy be made that any state in this country where somebody is killed in police custody, where extrajudicial killing is reported, that the commissioner of police of that state will be removed. Ayo, let that pronouncement be made today and implemented. You will see spontaneous reform. They told us that we will no longer see policemen without uniform. At the toll gate, during the memorial, I saw videos of policemen still wearing jeans. The commissioner of police was there, he did nothing. And he's still coming out to say people cannot protest. The commissioner for information said, oh, that the governor, the CP is not listening to the governor. Why has the CP of Lagos not been redeployed? Why have they not been removed? So when you have this impunity going on, let the president take action. Until that is done, you cannot blame people.
Okay, finally,
before
I allow you to go.
The compensation for victims. Till today, the federal government has not set a one kobo. Thankfully, Lagos has set a precedent. How about the federal government? How about the other states? Not one kobo has been set aside by other states
now,
as
the president has set up a committee. The president has set up a committee, to look at the set up modalities for reforming the police. It will seem that it is no longer on government's agenda at this time. What do you think is going on?
We don't need a committee to reform the police. It amounts to dereliction of leadership, of responsibility for the president to say that he needs a committee. What is the purpose of the Police Service Commission? What is the purpose of the National Assembly Committees on Police Affairs? What is the purpose of the Ministry of Interior and Police Affairs? We have a minister that has the responsibility of oversight over the police. Let him be fired. Let the president show leadership. You don't need a committee. You don't need a committee to fix and reform police barracks. You don't need a committee to say that police should not extort.
You have to leave it there.
This is just a distraction. It is a distraction.
Human rights lawyer.
There was a committee in 2018.
We have to thank you. We have to thank you. Human rights lawyer, Inibe Effiong. Thank you for your contribution today. Jide, we're still talking about police reform. Quickly.
Yeah, I think that when we are talking about reforming the police, we have to look at the funding of the police. We've got to do something about it.
Quick.
The recruitment and promotion in the police, the training and reorientation of the staff, the welfare and condition of service of the police, and then the need to strengthen disciplinary processes within the police. If we do not do that, we will not be able to go far. Policemen have to be constantly evaluated in terms of their professional competence and capability from time to time. And those who misbehave, as they often do, they need to be shown.
And one very important point,
if we don't show them the door.
One very important point you mentioned here now, insulation from partisan control.
Yes, we've got to
professional police.
we will never have a police of our dream when some police commissioner or the IG thinks that, oh, it is the government of the day.
Yes.
You know, that he has to show his loyalty to. Maybe that's why in some countries, even the president cannot appoint the Inspector General of Police. You know, maybe we'll get there someday because there is evidence that the police is not apolitical. And that is one reason we are afraid of state police, that it could get worse if we have state police. If from what we are seeing, if we now have state police, that could get worse. That's the fear that many people have.
Finally, Abaton, who do we blame for the often hostile attitude of police towards the citizens?
Well, I think the police too were brought up in a very hostile environment. Like he said, go to an average police barracks. They have children. Their children were brought up under a particular system. When they leave school, some of them enroll in the police force.
Yes.
What do you expect for them to give to the society that brought them up in a rat, in a hole?
Swallow.
So the thing is that, you know, in Nigeria, people keep on talking about the fact that the president should act. It has been there for 6 years. We have the Ministry of Police Affairs, Abi. We have the Police Service Commission. Those two institutions are enough to have a reform of the police system.
Yes.
Well, we have the next 16 months, the president will leave office. I think Nigeria should not expect anything from this government if this government has spent 6 years. And one of the promises made by President Muhammad Buhari was to reform the Nigerian police. And he has spent 6 years in office. I think the people who want to rule Nigeria in 2023, they should start putting their acts together.
They too will make that promise. They too will make that promise.
They will make that promise. The problem we have is that it's when people get to office in Nigeria that they begin to think of solutions to problems in which they campaign for. One would have expected the president to have had the blueprint for the police, but he has no blueprint and he has spent 6 years there.
Funding is a major thing today.
No, funding is the biggest problem in my view.
Right now, apart from those state governors, just remove
without those state
governors in Nigeria,
from the Nigerian police
is nothing.
I don't know what the police will look like.
The police is not
police
without
will
those
be
state
prostrate.
In spite of the two commissions, two institutions we have, Police Service Commission, Ministry of Police Affairs,
the patrol vans that they use.
Is legal. Look at how much Lagos State is spending.
Governments that are providing them. Federal government simply pay salary.
APC, you know? Everything.
Yes.
You want to buy uniform, they buy it themselves.
So yes, a lot of them buy their uniform by themselves.
For you to get torchlight,
and now you don't want them to be corrupt. You don't want them to stand by the roadside and extort.
You post a police corporal from Bauchi, post him down to Lagos. There's nowhere for him to sleep.
Yes.
From Bauchi down to Lagos. That has been happening for some time. It has been happening for a long time. And you want a reform. You want a change in the attitude.
Tunde Abaton, thank you for your contribution. And BKO, God bless us. TVC shall rise again.
Yes, TVC refused to stay down.
Yeah.
We have risen like the phoenix, and we shall remain on top.
On the third day, we started our transmission back.
We started the transmission
of October
with journalist Hangout.
Yes.
We bounced back with journalist Hangout when this carnage
they thought they could kill the vision.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't kill a vision.
They are too small to kill TVC. We are where we are now, and we know that our future will be better than our past. That's where we are. Every time I see this building, my blood boils. But there is nothing as good as a man's strong will. That strength of character has brought us where we are today, and is taking us to a much better place. I'm confident about that. Nigerians should not despair. We are going to a much better place.
The glory of the latter shall be greater than that of the former. So, TVC.
So shall it be.
Yeah. And that's our offering today.
1 million hectoliters of anointing.
Yes, sir.
It's going with that.
Yes, sir. Yes. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcasts tonight at 11. And don't forget to join us on Sunday, 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Zubakun. See you on Sunday, 1:30 p.m.